Something is happening to FIFA that its president did not see coming. Not on a football pitch, not inside a stadium. In courtrooms, government offices, and corridors of institutional power across 3 continents, a mounting coordinated challenge to the organization that has governed the world's most popular sport for over a century is building, quietly but unmistakably, into something that could reshape football's future entirely. And what makes this moment different from every previous battle fought against FIFA is this. For the first time in the sport's modern history, the challenge is not coming from a single enemy. It is coming from everywhere, all at once. Stay with us, because the story of what is happening to FIFA right now, during the very tournament it built its entire legacy upon, is unlike anything this sport has ever seen before. Let's understand what FIFA actually is. Not the glossy branding, not the opening ceremony fireworks, not the trophy held aloft by a weeping captain. The real FIFA, the structure beneath the spectacle. FIFA is a body of 211 member associations, each casting one vote at the annual Congress that decides the organization's direction, its leadership, and its future. One vote per nation, whether that nation is Germany with 80 million citizens or a tiny Pacific Island federation with a few thousand registered players. Every vote carries equal weight, and every vote, for years, has been shaped by a single extraordinary financial tool. It is called the FIFA Forward program, and it works like this. Every member federation receives a payment, currently set to reach at least $8 million per federation during this presidential term alone, distributed by FIFA to fund football development at the grassroots level. On paper, it is investment in the sport. In practice, analysts and governance experts have described it for years as the most powerful, under-the-radar political mechanism in world football. Federations whose priorities align with the incumbent president vote for the incumbent president. The system has been in place since the era of Sepp Blatter. Gianni Infantino, who took over in 2016, expanded it. The result? Infantino was re-elected unopposed in 2019, unopposed again in 2023, and in April of this year, at the 76th FIFA Congress in Vancouver, he announced he would seek a third and final term, with the election scheduled for March 18, 2027, in Rabat, Morocco, a nation that is both a FIFA ally and co-host of the 2030 World Cup. As of today, there is no announced challenger. No credible opponent has stepped forward. The institution that governs football for 8 billion people on this planet is preparing to re-elect its president effectively by acclamation. And yet, something is changing, because while the political machinery of FIFA rolls smoothly forward, the world outside it is no longer accepting the outcome quietly. The first front opened in Europe, where fan groups and consumer rights organizations had been watching the 2026 World Cup ticket crisis unfold with growing fury. In March of this year, Football Supporters Europe, a body representing supporters across the entire European Union, joined forces with Euro consumers and filed a formal legal complaint with the European Commission in Brussels. The complaint was specific, detailed, and damning. It identified 6 separate practices it described as abuses of monopoly power. Among them, final tickets that had reached more than 7 times the cost of the cheapest seat at the Qatar 2022 final. FIFA's own bid documents had projected an average ticket price of $1,408, a figure the actual pricing had left far behind. The $60 entry-tier ticket that FIFA advertised as its concession to ordinary fans, fan groups alleged it was effectively gone before general sale even opened, representing just 10% of each national association's allocation. A few hundred seats in stadiums holding 80,000 people. The complaint called on the European Commission to intervene immediately, to halt dynamic pricing for European fans for the remainder of the tournament, to freeze prices, to publish at least 48 hours in advance exactly how many tickets remained and precisely where those seats were located in each stadium. FIFA said it had not formally received the complaint. And then came the second front. Across the Atlantic, political pressure was arriving from a different direction entirely. The attorneys general of 4 American states, New York, New Jersey, California, and Texas, either launched formal investigations into FIFA's ticketing practices or sent letters demanding answers. Politicians in Washington called on FIFA to lower ticket prices and reconsider dynamic pricing, arguing the system was turning the World Cup into an exclusionary event, pricing out the very fans who had always given the game its heartbeat. 4 separate U.S. investigations, 1 European Commission complaint, and still the tournament had not yet kicked off. But if you want to understand the true scale of what is happening, you need to go back even further. Back to December 2023 and a ruling that sent shockwaves through the sport's entire governance structure and whose consequences are still reverberating today. The Court of Justice of the European Union, the highest legal authority on the continent, delivered a verdict that no football official had wanted to hear. It ruled that FIFA and UEFA had acted in violation of European Union law when they threatened clubs with bans and sanctions for attempting to create the European Super League in 2021. The court found that their monopoly control over the authorization of alternative competitions was, in effect, an illegal abuse of market dominance. It was an extraordinary moment. For the first time in history, the world's most powerful legal institution had looked at football's governing bodies and told them in plain legal language that their power was not absolute, that there were boundaries even FIFA could not cross without consequence. The Super League project itself ultimately collapsed. Real Madrid, the last surviving member of the original 12 rebel clubs, finally agreed terms with UEFA in February of this year, ending 5 years of legal warfare and drawing a line under the breakaway attempt. The Unify League, as it had been rebranded, found no new clubs willing to publicly back it. UEFA's revamped Champions League had absorbed much of the discontent. The immediate threat of a rival competition faded. But the ECJ ruling remained. The legal precedent remained. The acknowledgement from Europe's highest court that FIFA operates as a monopoly and that monopolies can be challenged remained. And that precedent is now being used, right now, in Brussels. Because here is what is genuinely new about this moment, what makes it different from every previous challenge to FIFA's authority in the sport's long and troubled history. Every previous rebellion came from inside the tent. The 2021 Super League was driven by billionaire club owners chasing private wealth. The 2015 corruption scandal was exposed by a U.S. Department of Justice investigation focused on bribery. The reform movements of the Blatter era were driven by insiders seeking to replace one set of leaders with another. What is happening now is different. It is coming from outside, from fans, from elected governments, from the institutions of the European Union itself. And it is not asking to change who runs FIFA. It is asking whether FIFA, as currently constituted, has the right to operate the way it does. That is a fundamentally different question, and it is one FIFA has never had to answer before. The organization's response so far has been to defend its position confidently. Infantino has pointed to the Forward program as evidence that FIFA genuinely invests in football globally. He has defended the ticket prices as a reflection of North American market demand. He has described himself as very relaxed about the investigations. He has noted correctly that FIFA budgets more than 90% of its revenue back into the game.
But there is a growing number of voices, from governance experts, from sports economists, from fan leaders, from elected politicians, who say that those arguments, however accurate in isolation, miss the central point entirely. The central point is this: when you hold a complete monopoly over the world's most watched sporting event, the normal rules of market defense do not apply. You cannot use demand as a justification for pricing because you are the only seller. You cannot claim the market sets the price when there is no competing market. And when that monopoly extends to the power to exclude any rival competition, a power now ruled illegal by Europe's highest court, the question of accountability becomes urgent in a way it never was before.
Ronan Ivan, the executive director of Football Supporters Europe, put it in terms that cut straight to the heart of the matter. FIFA's approach, he said, leaves loyal fans with a stark choice: pay up or lose out. He called it a monumental betrayal of the values that football is supposed to represent. Those words, monumental betrayal, were not used lightly, and they are being heard. Because behind the scenes, the political arithmetic of FIFA's future is more complicated than the unopposed presidential race in Rabat makes it appear. Power within FIFA is distributed across 6 continental confederations, and the alliances that hold those confederations together are not guaranteed to last forever. UEFA, representing 55 European member nations, the single largest bloc in FIFA's Congress, has already gone in a different direction on ticket pricing. UEFA announced that Euro 2028 would cap prices, with nearly half of all tickets priced below £60. The contrast with FIFA's approach could not be starker, and it was deliberate. It was UEFA making a statement about values and about what European football believes it stands for. That statement matters, because if UEFA and its 55 member nations continue to move in a direction that diverges from FIFA's priorities on pricing, on fan access, on governance transparency, on the relationship between the sport and its commercial partners, the political ground beneath FIFA's feet begins to shift, however slowly. And there is one more dimension to this story that almost nobody is discussing publicly, yet. By 2031, when Infantino reaches his statutory term limit, FIFA will need a new president for the first time in 15 years. The networks built around the Forward program, the relationships cemented across 6 confederations, the political architecture that has kept the current leadership unchallenged, all of it will need to be rebuilt from scratch around whoever comes next. That transition will be the single most consequential moment in FIFA's governance in a generation, and it will arrive in a world where the European Commission has established legal precedent for challenging FIFA's monopoly, where 4 U.S. states have investigated its ticketing practices, where fan groups have taken their grievances all the way to Brussels, where a generation of supporters has watched the World Cup become, in the words of Football Supporters Europe, a luxury product that excludes the very people who built it. The question is not whether change is coming to FIFA. Across every front on which it is currently being challenged, legal, political, institutional, and commercial, pressure is building in a way it has never built before. The question is whether the change arrives before 2031, or whether by then the window has already passed. What is certain is this: the tournament unfolding across stadiums in the United States, Canada, and Mexico this summer is simultaneously the greatest advertisement FIFA has ever produced and the most powerful argument its critics have ever had for why this organization, as currently structured, cannot continue indefinitely. Football belongs to its fans. That is the phrase you hear repeated endlessly by FIFA itself, in promotional materials, in press conferences, in the carefully crafted language of Infantino's public appearances. But somewhere in Brussels, a legal complaint is working its way through the European Commission. Somewhere in New York, an investigation is open.
Somewhere in a stadium in North America, a fan who saved for years to attend the World Cup is sitting in a seat that cost 10 times what was originally promised, or watching from home because they couldn't afford the ticket at all. The game is never more popular. The money has never been greater. The stadiums have never been larger. And the gap between the football we were promised and the football we actually got has never been wider. The world is watching. The courts are watching. The governments are watching. And perhaps the most consequential moment in FIFA's 120-year history is not a vote or a final or a trophy ceremony. Perhaps it is happening right now, quietly, in rooms the cameras cannot reach.